Now, I haven't gotten to all your guys' questions here. I actually want to get into the topics of today's show, which the first thing we're going to talk about on today's show is Jameson Williams. Now, here's the thing, folks. I like Jameson Williams. I like his talent. I like his drive. I like his competitive spirit. But I do know that, again, I pay attention to social media. I pay attention to news reports. And I've already heard a couple of opinions from some people about how they don't like Jameson Williams' attitude that he expressed, specifically in the Green Bay game, when he wasn't necessarily getting touches, he wasn't necessarily getting the ball thrown his way, blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, folks, let's back this up here, because I know some people are worried about Jameson Williams. And realistically, the title of this whole segment is going to be, should Lions fans be worried about Jameson Williams? My answer is no. I don't think Lions fans should be worried about Jameson Williams. And here's the reason why. Number one, let's understand something here. I said this on my private YouTube channel, Detroit Lions Forum. People wanted to make much ado about Jameson Williams, about how he was supposed to come in. He was supposed to be this burner. He was supposed to be this guy that was going to just light defenses up. And part of that was the overzealous expectation that, hey, as soon as he comes in, boom, he should just hit the ground running and that's it. Well, here's the problem. That was not going to be a realistic expectation here. And the reason why is because let's think about this from another wide receiver that we just had as a rookie last year. That was Amon-Ra St. Brown. How many freaking weeks did it take Amon-Ra St. Brown to get on the same page with Jared Goff before Amon-Ra St. Brown just literally blew up and took over the entire NFL as one of the best young wide receivers? It wasn't until week 11, week 12, until Amon-Ra St. Brown fully came on the scene and he was just this dynamic monster of a wide receiver. When did Jameson Williams come back? Oh, that's right. Jameson Williams didn't come back until the very same time last year when Amon-Ra St. Brown started to catch fire. So it's like, why should we have expected that Jameson Williams was going to do the exact same thing in 2/3 the less of time that Amon-Ra St. Brown had? Amon-Ra St. Brown had a whole season to develop chemistry with Jared Goff. Jameson Williams literally only had 6 weeks. It's like there was this unrealistic expectation that Jameson Williams was going to come in and he was just going to be a light. He was just going to burn the league. It wasn't going to happen. And plus, on top of that, there was a recent report that was literally just released not that long ago where Amon-Ra St. Brown said that he believes that Jameson Williams is going to be a spark for the Detroit Lions, that he's going to provide that much-needed electricity, that spark, that jolt that they need on offense. And it's like, listen, we saw it at least on 2 separate occasions that I can recall from the season. One actually stood, one did not. And you all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the 41-yard touchdown that counted against the Minnesota Vikings. Jameson Williams was wide open. There was nobody around. Now, granted, that was a little bit of a miscoverage snap in the back end of the Vikings, but Jameson Williams was just flat out burning people. There was nobody around. And then you go to the Packers game at the end of the year. If not for a holding call, I think it was on Taylor Decker that got the play called back, Jameson Williams would have had his second touchdown of the season. And once again, Jameson Williams just put on the burners. Nobody could catch him. So when people want to ask me, or people want to ask or have this idea of being concerned about Jameson Williams' work ethic, about his attitude, or about the fact that he seemed like he was upset because he wasn't getting used as much, it's like, listen, let's understand something here. You have to understand where he was coming from too, if that is the case. And I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying if it is the case. Jameson Williams had to sit pretty much 2/3 of the year nursing an injury that the doctor that worked on him said, hey, he could be ready in a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two after he'd had already a surgery done and had been drafted. He was like, hey, he should be ready in time for training camp. But the Lions kept saying, no, we're not going to bring him. We're not going to rush him back. We want to make sure he's 100%. So I'm pretty sure Jameson Williams is hearing from his doctor, hey, he's physically ready to go. And the Lions are like, no, he's not ready to go. We want to wait. So you probably got a little bit of the impatient factor there, number one. Number two, Jameson Williams is obviously a young guy. He's trying to make his way. He's trying to make his mark in the NFL. He's obviously going to be chomping at the bit. I can't fault him for that. I want him to be chomping at the bit. But at the same time, it's like, listen, because of that chemistry not being there between Jameson Williams and Goff, I'm also not worried about it for one simple reason. What did Jared Goff do this offseason with the wide receivers that he had? He flew practically every single one of them out to Los Angeles, where his home was at, And he had a throwing session with them, or he had actually a couple throwing sessions with them. He threw with them. He built that chemistry with them. And we saw how when that chemistry was developed, what those wide receivers in him were able to do this year. Jared Goff had one of the best seasons of his career and arguably one of the best seasons of all quarterbacks in the NFL this year. You add Jameson Williams into that already very combustible mix of DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and even Khalif Raymond. You add Jameson Williams into that, dude, you've got a high-octane offense that's got wide receivers to burn for days. So I'm not worried about Jameson Williams. I'm not worried about him at all. I'm going to let the offseason take effect. I'm going to let Jared Goff bring him into the fold. Take time in the offseason to work with him, get him in total rhythm with this offense, total rhythm with Jared Goff, and then I'm going to see and make my final judgment on, okay, now let's take a look where Jameson Williams is, and let's see what he's doing come next year. We got ourselves a couple of comments here really quickly. 1021 Portrait says his attitude isn't that deep, LOL. He also then says a guy made a video about this, and I think it's stupid. Bo Booth says J-Mo is young. And here's the thing. Again, everyone's going to have varying opinions on this. I don't know what video you're talking about, 1021 Portraits, if you're still around. I have not seen that video. I'm just saying I've seen various comments on Twitter, on Facebook. I've seen the report about how Brad Holmes said that, what was it? That Jameson Williams was going to have to grind in the offseason, which let's understand something here. These guys are professionals. They've gone to college. They know that they're going to have to work. They're going to have to put the work in. And I'm not at all worried about Jameson Williams' work ethic. He had to bust his butt to get the rehab through, and then he had to make sure he was up to speed at least well enough to where he could go out on the field. I'm not worried about his work ethic. I know some people are. I know some people are worried about his work ethic, his attitude. That's my whole point for this segment here that I just had. I'm not worried about it. I think somebody or a couple of people, they saw something, they over-embellished it. A lot of people got a hold of it. They started spreading it around. It's like, listen, don't worry about the kid. This kid is going to make sure that number 12 overall selection that Brad Holmes paid on him is going to come back, and it's going to pay itself in full. I'm not at all worried about Jameson Williams. Let the kid get his offseason legs under him. Let him develop some chemistry and a rapport with Jared Goff, and let's see what happens come next year.